so I want to talk about just some general guidelines of things that probably every web page should style or should have in its CSS. And I want to talk about some just main basic stylings. I want to cover primarily just general typography and colors. So I want to talk about changing background colors, foreground colors. I want to talk about modifying the typography, such as the typefaces for the headers, a different typeface for the body. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the other text stylings you can do and just how to, in general, apply them to a page. If you look here, I'm looking at the My Biography page, and I'm using Notepad++, and I've cloned it into two views. So on the left, we can see the CSS, and on the right, I can refer to some of the HTML that I'm applying it to. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of these stylings and work on it. Okay, so I'm going to use the assignment that I've given the students let's see if this, to get the page out here. So on the assignment, what I'm asking everyone to do is select a color scheme for the page. So I want to show you the tools that you have available. And so there is the color wheel, the color wizard, the color wheel, and we're going to talk a little bit about color palettes as well. The idea of colors is when you apply them, you want to have colors that go well together, that are paired well. You want to use colors that are going to be high contrast so you can see really well. And so I really like the color wizard, and there's another tool called the color contrast analyzer. So I'm just going to go to the color wizard here. It's on colorsontheweb.com. It's their list of color tools. The 3 color tools here are very important tools. The nice thing about the color wizard is, other than all the really annoying ads, that's not cool, is you can click on randomize. And things that you should know about on colors is your color schemes are available here. And you should really look at, but one of the things you can do is you can look at these, and already you can see you've got a variety of color offerings that will pair well with the color that you've chosen. Okay, so these are different color schemes. I highly recommend you take a look at them. And I'm going to go to the color contrast analyzer. And you may not see the color differences, but this is a great tool for figuring that out. And as you remember, it was FEFFFF. And when you plug in a background color and a text color, unfortunately this one is not showing me the text color, it's showing black. It will say that on large text, so this would be like headers and things, it will pass with the AA rating. Okay, a AAA rating is the best. And it doesn't even pass on small text. So if you're not sure if you got the right color contrast, use this. That's going to be a great tool. One other thing that you should be aware of is if you get a nice photograph, you can do a good color palette from there. Let me show you an example of one that I think would be a good one to use. Okay, so I'm going to use, the example I want to use is a student made this. Everyone did color palettes, so this particular student came up with the Da Vinci color code. Very clever. One of the things I do want to mention is there is not that big of a difference from light to dark in here. So I'm going to throw one more thing out at you all, and that is if you generate colors on the color wizard or a color palette like this, let me recommend that you add to the palette either like white or almost white and black. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these colors, and we're going to use a very light and a very dark color on here. So one of the things we can do to get the very dark and the very light is we can pick the darkest color code and get a variation. So we're going to put this color code into the color wizard. All right, so we go into enter hex code. It's right here. You can put in your key. I'm going to do 37240F. And I'm going to set that color. So that's the brown we were looking at. And then now we have, here they just give it as all black. There's a slightly darker version of it. We don't have one that's pure, or we have it, right now it's pure black. So I was hoping I could get one that would be dark. let me try one of the other colors that it used and see if I can just generate that. 621 A09, set this one. There we go. So I wanted to use a color that's not pure black. So I'm going to copy that particular color. Now, let's do some coding because this is going to take a little time. All right, the most important place to add your styles, and this should be the first thing you do when you do styles, is select the body because it contains everything on your page. And we're going to go ahead and start with the background color. Now, if you want a really light color, you can use that. I'm going to use the color I chose, where I picked the brown and I got a really dark version of it. Now, the moment you set a background color, something really dark, you better go ahead and set the color and pick something really light. So I'm going to go back to that color palette. This time I'm going to take this color code and get a lighter version of it to get the lightest and the darkest colors I can get. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. F9B744. Set. That doesn't look right. F9B7. Oh, FF. I meant 44. There we go. That's more like it. And that white is not white enough. I mean, it's too white. Excuse me. And so I'm going to try this color. And I'm just guessing. So we won't know for sure until we actually plug it in and see our page. So I save my changes. Let's go ahead and launch it in Chrome, see what we got with the new colors. And remember, now we have a very dark background color, very light foreground color. Looks decent. All right, let's switch it out. Notice my links, though, look a little bit. So let's reverse this. Great way to reverse your colors. In Notepad++, highlight background plus the dash. While it's highlighted, click it and drag it down. See what I did there? Yeah. All right. Refresh. Now we do it the other way. I like that. Overall, probably depends on what your website, who you're aiming at. I know lots of people who do not like the dark backgrounds. Enough so, I never hear people complaining about light backgrounds. I do hear complaints about Comic Sans, but, you know, that's another one. All right, so anyways, there's our color, our background color, and let's double check to make sure this meets the color contrast analyzer. Okay, as you can see, when I plug in the different codes, the text color, foreground color, it passes AAA on large and small. I am good to go. Okay, so while we're on the topic of colors, let's just go ahead and finish out the colors using the color guide that we're going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to target our headers, because we're going to make all the headers be a different color. So we're going to start with the header 1. So note again, you just type the name of the font, the name of the element, the tag you're talking about, no angle brackets or anything. And we already have a background color set on the body, so we're just going to go ahead and set the color. Then we're going to go ahead and pick one of the other colors that's on the color palette. And so one of the ones that was like a greenish color, 4A461C. The other thing worth noting is that I picked a really dark color, really light color for the background. It's a good idea because most of the colors on the color code palette are darker colors anyway. So it'll be good to we're just going to set the colors here. So we're going to use that sort of a greenish color on the header 1. And we're going to see what it looks like. And then we may mix it up a little bit. And so let's go back to the page, hit refresh, and now you see that the header is a little bit different in color. That's actually not bad at all. In fact, I want to go to the color contrast analyzer and just see what happens when I change the color for the text. Oops, excuse me. There we go. And hit enter. I must have done, oh, I probably changed it up on here. So let's do background color here. Interesting. And the text color, oh, I see. It was not the text color I had before. Here we go. There we go. And it passes AAA both ways. So even that color with the brown works as well. So we could make our text that color. In fact, I'm tempted to go ahead and try it that way. So I get rid of that. And I move this over here. And let's pick a different color for our header. Let's go ahead and pick this reddish color, the 1A09, I believe it was. Let's just double check. Yeah. And so we go back to our page. And we'll go ahead and hit refresh. And there we go. Now we've got the reddish color. And for our other fonts, let's go ahead and do the last color on the color palette, this one that's right here. And so all other fonts we're going to do are all other headers. And right now we just have a header 2 is the next level. But if we ever wanted to have a header 3, we can style that by putting a comma. And then one of the guidelines for certain websites, they will put each selector on its own line separated by a comma. And on the headers 2 and 3, we're going to do the next color, which is the 37240F. Make sure you always add a semicolon at the end. Save your changes, and let's take a look at that page. All right, so there we have it. A couple different colors. Very subtle, nothing standing out that much. And we have a horizontal rule that has that little line there. Let's see if we can change the color. So if you want to change the colors of the border, it's actually, or the HR, which is that line that goes under, it's called border color. And you can set the border width and the border style as well. But for this case, we're just going to do it, this way. And we're going to use that yellowish color. We haven't used that one yet, and because it's a lighter color. So as you hit refresh on there, you can see there we have that color as well. If you go a little bit further down, you will see I have hyperlinks, so you should know how to deal with hyperlinks. Right now we haven't changed anything. Okay, so we're going to cheat a little bit. I've already pre-selected the colors because we're really running low on time. So let me talk to you about creating hyperlink colors. They're a little bit different. Hyperlinks don't get changed by the styles on your page. And so, as you saw before, they stayed blue, even though I changed the color of the page. So what we're going to do is we're going to target the hyperlinks themselves and change the color. But we're going to do it using what's called pseudo-selectors. And a pseudo-selector, let me show you the example of the first one. A::link is the same as saying our hyperlinks and what they look like. And so that's the first pseudo-selector, and I've already chosen a color for it, and that's the color of 095161. Let's save our changes and see what that looks like. So here's my page, and let's go ahead and zoom in on the hyperlinks at the bottom. If you look here, that's the standard purple text that you get when you've already visited a link. Well, that's because we have already visited them, so the visited has taken over. So we're going to do the next one, which is a visited, and I've already picked out another color, which is the 09. And basically, it's the same color you see up here, so you can see what it looks like. And then we go here, we hit refresh, and now you can see it's a little bit more of like a tealish sort of color. So that's what it's going to look like if you've already been to a site before. And we can change this color too. Just add a new link to a site you haven't been on lately, and it should show in the color. The last thing I want to do is show you hover, the hover effect, when your mouse is hovering over it. And now I've picked a different color so you can see the hover effect. I believe this is a greenish color. So let's take a look at it, hit refresh, and when I hover, notice it's sort of a bluish green. Okay, so that's the hover effect. So those are the main pseudo-selectors you want for a hyperlink, and you've got to keep them in the right order. It's link, visited, hover. If you switch the order and you move hover first and then you do visited, visited wins out because it comes later. And so now hover will not work. See that? It's because visited comes after, and that's the way style sheets work. It's the order in which they appear is how you set it. The very last one to be styled is the one that wins. And so now we're back, so it's working. So on the next tutorial, we're going to cover text and typography and some of that stuff. So